Hello viewers, tonight I will be reading chapter 16. I would like to say before I begin that I did receive a very interesting comment. I did respond to it on this channel. So I do have a video about that. The person in question, Ronan Blackwing, he was very dissatisfied about this series. And I have to say, basically, I told him the same thing. This is not a professional series. This is not a fan series. This is not, how should it be said, that type of thing. This is a very critical, series. This is a critical series about art, about narrative, and these matters. Basically, I give my interpretations. I sort of investigate in my own way what certain things could mean culturally, even to an extent spiritually. Some of us are not aware that in Japan, there is a good deal of history regarding, and this is true for all cultures in general, how should it be said, propagandistic material even. Certain things have a cultural influence, to be honest. So, for example, if I am talking about, Amakusa Shiro, as far as I know, this was a man who, he was basically, there was a particular Christian rebellion in Japan, and they followed a young boy, Amakusa Shiro, or I suppose that would be how you pronounce it. I'm not very good at pronouncing Japanese, but you will have to deal with it, with my very shoddy pronunciation. Anyhow, Amakusa Shiro, and they have very beautiful statues of him. He was a young boy. Basically, the peasants in Japan, there used to be a lot of Christian peasants. Catholics had brought it over. So after the Japanese sort of shogunate and their warlords had killed the Portuguese missionaries and other missionaries from whichever countries they came from. As far as I know, they were Portuguese. Excuse me. They also started to kill a lot of their own citizens, real Japanese people, and for the most part, these were poor people. Now, let me show you something that's very interesting in Japanese culture, especially now. You will see that the depictions of Amakusa Shiro are very feminine. All right? And they often sort of make it seem as though Amakusa Shiro uses some type of Christian magic. You can find this in anime too. And the idea is that Christians are just cults. They have magic. They are just evil people. And they even do things where they make it seem as though Amakusa Shiro is demonic, is somehow working with devils. So the idea is that Christianity is some strange religion from the Western world. It is going to sort of affect Yamato Japanese values. Now, as far as I know, and I am fairly sure I'm saying this right, Yamato Japanese is sort of the idea of a spirit of Japan. There's a word. I do not know if it is Yamato Yes, Yamato ethnicity. So this is the idea of an ethnic group that comprises over 98% of Japan. Now, that is sort of contrasted with what? Certain people in, Okinawa or even Ainu people are considered less than Yamato or not considered to be fully Yamato. In other words, there are certain people who are discriminated against in Japan. And there are a few different ethnic groups and different groups that have different sort of physical characteristics. However, here in Japan, if you are somewhat different, you are heavily criticized. Many people talk about it. So this is what they use in Japanese anime oftentimes to sort of bastardize the image of Christians. Now, this is just one example of a cultural thing in manga, anime, and what have you that is to some degree propagandistic. So these are the things I talk about. I not only talk about the quality of the writing in manga, I talk about certain cultural things. So, for example, if you were an anime watcher and you did not know who Amakusa Shiro is, you would not realize why there is such a heavy emphasis on making Amakusa Shiro into such an evil character. Alright, so everything that is written, there's a reason why it is written. So, for example, over there in Japan, when they want to make a statement about Christians and how bad Christianity is for Yamato Japanese, what character they bring out? They bring out the historical figure Amakusa Shiro. They put him in certain anime or what have you, and they sort of make him into an evil character who can use magic. So the idea is that somehow Christianity is just some type of weird mystical religion from the West that Japanese people just should not get involved with. It is bad for Japanese culture and society. And some of you may think, wait, that's a joke, right? It cannot be like that. People in Japan are not that bigoted, but you may very well be surprised. So on this channel, a great deal of what I do is actually just showing you some of the cultural implications and things that we come into contact in anime, in manga. To some extent, I do talk about video games, but for example, this is Amakusa Shiro is a Christian martyr. In other words, this is a man who died for the faith. What does Japanese and keep in mind that these Christians were peasants, they were poor people. When Japan engaged in their genocides, they killed upwards hundreds of thousands of people. And they acted as though, the officials acted as though this was heroic. Now, we do not even need to mention the level of carnage and war crimes and just overall brutality there was in World War II. But to be entirely honest, it really should be said that actually, in most Japanese anime and in many Japanese video games and Japanese media in general, much of what was done by the Japanese military in World War II, it is promoted, it is valorized, it is put in a good light. The same thing regarding Amakusa Shiro, regarding sort of his role in Japanese history. The idea is that he was a Christian. This is something heavily stigmatized in Japan. And so Amakusa Shiro is sort of used as the face of Christianity and just a evil religion of the Western world. You may think, well, Japanese people are mature enough not to really believe this. But this is the type of culture that we see in some manga. Now, this is just one example of one cultural thing that if you were not reading into it, if you did not know very much about Japanese culture in general, and you just decided, well, I just read and I do not care about cultural implications, then it is, I would say that is somewhat foolish. In regard to Claymore, that has heavily culturally rich implications, which is one of the reasons why I am reading this particular manga. And basically I do this with any manga. I want to know why things are the way they are. And in regard to Claymore, there is a good deal of sort of eating people. And this sort of takes on a sexual context. Alright? Not to mention the weird little child enthusiastic depiction of Claire and other children throughout the manga. So there are cultural reasons why it has as much sexuality and cannibalism as it does. And there are reasons why the Claymores are blonde-haired and silver-eyed. Just like, there's a reason why the Toriyama in Dragon Ball Z, when he created Saiyans, their power state, their power-up, is a Super Saiyan, a person with blonde hair and green eyes. There are reasons for these things. And if we do not know the reasons, at least we can ask questions such as, why is it so that a man with black hair and dark features in eyes and hair becometh a man who has blonde hair and green eyes? What is the significance of that? What does that symbolize? And some people may say, well, it does not matter. It is fun. We like it. We don't really care why this decision was made. And I think, well, if we want to know everything we can about the medium, about the art, about what this manga is, why not learn? Why not ask questions? Why not investigate different cultural contexts and things? So this is not some type of professional sort of narration. This is narration in my commentary, my ideas, my thoughts about it. Hopefully, you can gain an understanding yourself, and you can think about what is in the manga and ask even bigger questions than me, than what I have, basically. All right? But anyhow, I'm going to take a short pause, and I'm going to start reading chapter 16. Thank you for coming, viewers. All right. Alright, sorry for the pause, people. No, alright, I had to drink some water. Okay, none of this is professional. Please remember that. I do everything in a very improvisational way here. As I told the person who had basically had some of that criticism about the series, this was never meant to be any type of grade A content. I told him in that video, I said, I do not get paid grade A money, and so the content is not grade A. And frankly, YouTube, when it first started, it was a platform where amateur content was not something frowned upon. That was the idea behind YouTube. YouTube was more of a thing where you could sort of experience the beauty of just sort of amateur content, of people just talking, not in some type of scripted manner. All right? Now, many people do edit their videos, but for the most part, much of what we see, or much of what used to be seen on YouTube, was just amateur content. But anyhow, as I said, I do apologize for the pauses, but anyhow, let me get started. Alright, so let's see. It looks like she has Claire has a new outfit. Yes, that suits you. Let's go with that. But it's too much. Don't worry, I've got money. They'll hardly have a use for it. Will that be all? Yes. We'll take the outfit. Now, let's get moving. It is interesting, and I always have found it interesting that although the man in black does take the preponderance of the money, that the Claymores do still have some money, which is interesting. I suppose. Okay. Well, she kills another Yoma. Blood spraying sounds. Okay. The people are all surprised, taken aback. Oh goodness. Okay. She basically is sort of getting some blood off of her sword, sheathing it. I do not see a sheath. I never have seen sheaths on those outfits. Like, the little scabbards or something you can put your sword in. Wow, one blow. So that's a claymore. Oh goodness, no. Was it the woman saying that? I guess. So that's a claymore. Okay, or something. I don't know who was saying that, honestly. Thank you. We didn't think you would find the Yoma so fast. The village is surrounded by mountains. We had nowhere to run. This is for you. It's the fee that we agreed upon. Don't need it. Huh? A man dressed in black will come for it later. Give it to him then. Oh, I see. Now, people, some of you already know basically the gist of what I'm going to say. We have seen this scene. I have to say it has to be about 6, 7 times now of the same type of, basically, listen, character interaction is very important. Different types of characters interacting with, different people, in other words. It is very important. The sort of weird, rigid relationship and interactions that the Claymores have with the villagers, it is always the same conversation. The villager comes up, says, "Oh, who do we pay? Who do we pay?" She says, "A man dressed in black is going to come for it later." Listen, I have read this same exchange about 6, 7, 8 times. How many times has it been? It has been about 9 times. I've read, I do not even know. It has been a massive amount of times where I've read the same stupid exchange. Eventually, as you read this manga, you are not going to see that exchange anymore. But the fact that I have to read this continuously, and I'm thinking, all right, I read there were about 77 generations of these Claymores, but these villagers still ask the same question over and over again. And I'm thinking, as a writer, you have to sort of understand that the reader is going to get very bored of reading the same conversation. It is redundant. We've saw it once, we've saw it twice. We've seen it more than 3 times. It is a very dumb sort of exchange because it is so boring, it is so banal, there is nothing different about it. All right? For example, in writing, you can skip little business like this. You can skip it, or you can sort of make it different every time. But it is this exact same conversation. Who do we pay? We pay the man in black. So, people, some of you may think, why am I so critical? Why do I criticize the writing? Because you have to realize this is real-time narration. This is not something where I am basically taking the manga and reviewing it and saying a lot of good things about it, like a lot of the fans that some of you may have watched. No, when you actually have to read it, it is very hard to just give something sort of blind adulation and just sort of blind praise in which you do not really care about how the reading experience is, and you just want to say, "Oh, Claymore is wonderful. It is a genius work by Norihiro Yagi. It is excellent. We really love it." But when you read it, when you take the time to read it. When you take the time to experience the flow of the writing, something like this should be commented on. And this is why, without a sort of narration and commentary where you can see this same scene happening about 5, if not 6 times, it has had to have happened at least 5 or 6 times, if not more than that. That is repetitive. That is boring. All right? And it really does not even need to be sort of emphasized as much as it is. That is, in a lot of this manga, the writing was repetitive. This is the purpose of really doing a critical examination of a manga. All right? In my opinion. And that is what these videos are about. I assure you, you will not hear anyone talking about Claymore, any of these fans who have their fan channels and their reviews of manga where they talk about the manga once or twice, or they do little reviews of chapters and they say, wow, this chapter was so fun and action-packed. All right, what about the writing? How enjoyable is this to read? I can show you the writing, narrate it, and basically show you how boring it is to read that a man in black is going to come about every few chapters. We know a man in black is going to come. Why do they not know that? We have bandits who already know rules about claymores. So if the townspeople know nothing about claymores, why have the townspeople and the villagers, why have they been doing business with claymores for so long when they do not even know how the business works? Obviously, there's a sort of understanding, an implied understanding that if you do business with these people, if you do business with them, and you know what they do, you have people in the village who have done business with them before. Obviously, the implication is that we know how to do business with them. We know a man in black is to come, and we are to pay him. We do not pay the Claymore directly because she told us before, and people basically know this. We've done business with them before. The bandits know more about claymores than the villagers, and that is ridiculous. These are supposed to be random bandits. The townspeople and the villagers know nothing at all. And this is no lie. All right? But that is something I have never seen any other channel talking about how repetitive this writing is. I hear so much praise and adulation for this manga, but this is why I do critical examination. Now let me read the chapter and show you that these same villagers always come to the Claymore and ask her the same question, and she says the exact same words. And I am thinking, all right, imagine if you had to buy issues of Claymore. Imagine if you had to individually buy these issues as though you were living in Japan during the time they were being sold. All right? And basically, you had to read the same lines that you read, and you would say, I read this in every single issue I buy. This is kind of stupid. This shouldn't, this is a waste of space on the paper because the villagers have been dealing with these people for about 77 generations. But anyhow, many of you have heard my criticism about that. It is ridiculous. But anyhow, don't need it, huh? A man dressed in black will come for it later. Give it to him then. Oh, I see. Teresa, just one more thing. Okay. She is going to give the child to the villagers. About the child. I'd like to leave her here in your care. Huh? Oh. Forgive me, but who is she? I met her on my travels. She's with me, so she is Yoma. Her parents are dead, and so she has no other family. If someone here wants children... All right. This is a mountain village with few children. I'm sure we'll find someone to take her in. Good. Looks like Claire, she doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to leave the Claymore. Oh goodness. Okay. It seems as though she's unbuckling something. Claire? Oh goodness, what? What is she doing? She's nude again. Some of you, oh my goodness. She does not have a bra on. But at least they're not showing the front side anymore. But what is the purpose of stripping Claire over and over again? Someone had to write this. She just takes her clothes off? What the? Claire, why? I don't need them. I don't need fancy clothes or fancy shoes. Just let me stay with you. I want to be with you always. I don't need anything else. Think about this. I was told that Claymore was not sexual. Claymore is not sexualized. Why is it so? I was told Claymore has, and I'm just talking about what Ronan Blackwing has told me, and what another particular user on the channel has told me. What was his name? Crimson Red Moon, or Red Moon Crimson, or Red Moon Blood Moon is another person who used to comment on this channel. He probably does not watch the videos now, but he used to tell me the same thing. He used to say, Claymore really treats its female characters really well. And I thought, really? It does? Alright. It is really progressive about the way it treats its female characters, but for whatever reason, Claire keeps taking her clothes off. And you have to remember, this is a young girl. This girl's like maybe, 9, 10 years old? This girl's young. This is an underage minor. She keeps taking her clothes off. Before we saw the front of her body, we literally saw her nipples. Now she is taking her clothes off again. This is about the second chapter where we see Claire taking her clothes off. This is supposed to be a flashback scene with Teresa. In other words, this is not happening in the present. This is happening in the past. And for some reason, the author really wanted to emphasize Claire just taking her clothes off. Why? Why have her take her clothes off? Oh, I don't need these clothes. I am just going to take them off. I want to be with you no matter what. This is like some weird... There is a weird theme involved in this. There's a weird theme involved in this. Alright? So she is just saying, I want to be with you always. And she's crying. They do some weird child enthusiastic stuff with this. They do weird child enthusiastic stuff in this manga. They do weird child enthusiastic stuff in the anime. They do. And some of you may deny it. Some of you may, you're going to basically sort of fume and rage and say, no, Claymore does not promote, sort of what may be called child enthusiasm, or the new liberal term, minor attraction. Why do we need to see this little girl naked all the time? This is the second chapter where we see this little girl basically naked in nothing but her underwear. Before we saw the front of her body, we literally saw her nipples. Now, we are not seeing her nipples, but still, she keeps, she's taking her clothes off again. This is a weird thing to do. Why can't she just do something like just sort of cling to her and sort of grab her arm and say, no, Teresa, I don't want to go. I don't want to go, Teresa. Take me with you. Instead of that, take your clothes off. Take your clothes off for all of the child enthusiasts who happen to be reading this manga, because that is what they want to see. That is what they want to fantasize about. They want to fantasize about a little girl taking her clothes off. And some of you can say, no, there are not people who want that, but there are. There would not be child enthusiasm if people did not want to see that, and if people did not fantasize about that. And you see plenty of it in this manga. You see plenty of it. I am not making this up. I did not write this. I did not depict this scene. Why is she taking her clothes off? Why does this keep happening? This is a little girl. This girl has to at least be 8 years old at the youngest or whatnot. She is not some type of, I mean, she is not even 16 yet. She is not 18 years old. This is a young girl. I have to emphasize that. I just feel like doing it. Now, some of you will complain, or you will say, hey, there is not much Claymore content out here on YouTube. And I have to hear you complaining about the child enthusiasm in Claymore. Some of you are just going to be livid. You're going to say, well, this is a bad thing for the series. You are criticizing it. However, why can I not ask these questions? Why can I not ask these questions? Honestly, I see this happening so many times. Basically, this is the second time, and I just have to ask why. All right, let me continue. Please, Teresa, Claire, you've seen it yourself. My job is to kill Yoma. I don't have anything else. It's all I do. No, don't say that. If you got mixed up in this, you'd only be a danger. We live in different worlds, you and I. You should live as a human with humans. Nobody here knows about your past. Crying sounds. Okay. I'm not going to try to do crying sounds. I am not going to sort of torture you with that attempt. I'm glad we met. I won't forget you. Okay. I mean, this is, now she's sort of clinging to her and sort of grabbing her and hugging her. But you see, this is what could have happened. She could have been doing this with clothes on. She could have been doing this with clothes on. She did not need to take her clothes off. And I'm going to receive some weird little Woody Allen type excuses. I already know there are going to be people who say, hey, this is not a bad thing. This is great. This is heartwarming. And I'm thinking, okay, she could have clothes on while she literally hugs Teresa for her last time. Why not have her? You see how this looks. You already know. This looks ridiculous because, I mean, it is just only one type of person likes this. Only one type of person likes this. Very particular types of people like this. And they like children a lot. In a very, what we may call a very bad way. A very sort of perverted way. Okay? An erotic way. Why she has to be nearly naked? For example, in chapter 14, she is taking her clothes off because she is in the water. Teresa says, you stink and you should take a bath. And so she does. And they literally showed the nipples of this young girl. Now, Teresa is leaving her in town or in the village. And Teresa is basically saying, I'm going to leave you here. You cannot come with me. Clara says, I don't need clothes. I just want to be with you. And weird child enthusiastic stuff. All right? Basically, and if none of you know what child enthusiasm is, I use this term instead of minor attraction, which is the new liberal term. I think the new liberal term is stupid. I cannot use the word that starts with a P, and therefore I use child enthusiasm. Because there are particular people who are enthusiastic about children, all right? In a particularly, how should I say this, nasty way, okay? You can use your own imagination to realize what I'm saying. But anyhow, I will not use the liberal term. That is a term being used to justify this lifestyle and to act as though in some way this can actually be some type of societal thing that can be applicable. And, people can live in harmony with it, which parents can never live in harmony with it because parents do not want their children to be abused by older people. But anyhow, we reading this manga do not need to see a half-naked, a more than half-naked little girl because she does not even have a top. A nearly naked little girl, we do not need to see this. The author keeps putting it in our faces. This is not an adult. This is not a fully grown woman. All right? She is not. She is a minor. She is a young girl. All right? And I just have to emphasize that regardless of what some of your opinions may be, I just have to say it. Because not many people reviewing this manga and just showering it with praise and not being critical of it, excuse me, most of those people are not talking about this. They are not. Alright, anyhow, let me continue. Be happy as a human, Claire. Okay, so the villagers are all looking. They finally put something on the girl. They finally put some type of clothes on the girl. Girls shouldn't run around without any clothes. That's a pretty outfit you have. Okay. She's smiling. I'll leave her with you. Of course. Don't worry. We'll take care of her. Okay. She's leaving Claire in the village. You should live as a human. With humans, Claire. There's a life here that I could never give you. You can live here as a human and die as one. And that in itself is the greatest happiness a person can have. Okay. And all of this whole sort of statement is really going to be turned on its head as we continue to read this manga. I would just say that. Because the idea of being human is just going to be questioned. And you are going to realize how useless this is, because basically humans in this series, we will see how they are portrayed very soon, or at least not very soon, but as you read, you will see that being a human, I mean, it's, who wants to be a human in Claymore? Who wants to be a human in Claymore? I will put it that way. Basically, you get eaten by Yoma. It is a terrible life. Okay. Farewell, Claire. Alright, she's walking down the road. I suppose those are horses. Okay, she's surprised. Bandits are coming. Bandits. Huh? Okay, horses. The bandits have horses. Okay, she's looking at this. Horse hoof sounds. Okay. Oh no. Now the bandits are gonna come to the village. What's that? It sounds like... I should have known. There shouldn't be bandits in these parts. They were after the village. Because it's so isolated and cut off. But they knew the Yoma were there. So they left it alone. In a sense, the Yoma were protecting the village. And I got rid of the Yoma. Okay, and the villagers are all dead. Claire! Claire! Kill the men! Capture the woman! Take everything! Thanks to the silver-eyed witch, this pigsty is ours for the taking. Witch or no witch, she's our savior. You monster! Okay. Looks like he took some type of projectile, like a arrow or a dart or some type of javelin, and threw it at him, but it did not work. He takes his sword out. I suppose he parries it in some way. How could he? Reach. Okay. Slash blood spraying sounds. My falcon sword has no equal. Okay, dashing sounds. Heavy breathing sounds from Claire. She's running away. There you are. Long time no see. Okay. It's Teresa. Heavy breathing from Teresa because she was running. Well, fancy meeting you here. Now that the Yoma are dead and gone. However many we kill, however much we take. The matter is between humans. It's got nothing to do with you. Or do you have your own reasons for stopping us? But that'd be killing humans, wouldn't it? Heavy breathing from Teresa. Claire! Huh? Oh, it's you. Did you forget something? Don't fret. I'll take care of her. I'll take good care of her. She's so cute when she screams your name. Okay. And now, power fantasy time. Power fantasy time. And sometimes power fantasies, sometimes they're in the context of vengeance, but we all know what is going to happen. One woman is going to kill a lot of men, basically. And I do not care about what the context is. I do not like power fantasies. Because power fantasies are boring. We all know what is going to happen. You know what is going to happen. You already know what is going to happen. To me, it is so boring reading about one person who goes into a gang of people. I'm super strong. I'm a superhero. I can kill all of you. I like challenging fights. I do not like reading about fights in which it is just completely one-sided. You have no real chance of dying. You're going to live anyhow because you cannot die. No one can kill you. And so when you're reading Claymore, basically the toughest fight you see is the one with Claire in the mausoleum. You know, earlier on, there are no fights where the Claymores are threatened at all. They can just kill anything. And so I know that most of the sort of protagonist characters are kept alive, you know, throughout a narrative. However, I really hate fights like this. I really hate these types of battles where, okay, we all know what is going to happen, so let us get it over with, because it is one of the most banal and boring things ever, in my opinion, for someone to just, oh, I have a big sword, you know, you men don't stand a chance, I'm going to kill all of you. What? She cuts his arm off. What are you doing? That was my only hand. Give it back. Okay, blood splashing sounds. Blood spraying sounds. Okay, the bandits are scared now. They're like, oh, what's going on? Say your prayers, wretches. Filth like you is lower than Yoma. I'm going to kill every last one of you. Of course, obviously. Oh goodness, how boring. Okay, anyhow, we have transitioned to full power fantasy. We're going to have to rate a good deal of chapters before the Claymores are challenged by anything. Okay, I mean, they will be, but basically, why would you want to be human when Claymores and Yoma and other things are so much stronger than you that they can just kill you anytime they want? Humans do not have any power. Her entering this village and fighting a whole group of bandits is not a challenge. This is not some type of challenging thing in the narrative. In other words, power fantasy. A fight without any sort of consequence. There are no consequences to this fight, because you can kill everyone anyhow. And that, to me, has always been so very boring. The same thing happens with video games. Some of us play games like Dark Souls for a reason. We are sick of power fantasies. I'm sick of power fantasies in manga, anime, and video games. Power fantasies are the most boring things in the whole world. But anyhow, basically, you already know what is going to happen in the next chapter. I already know what is going to happen in the next chapter. We all know what is going to happen in the next chapter. We do not need to have any sort of how should I say, we do not need to have any sort of deception about that, because we already know that they are all basically going to die. I mean, obviously. Okay. May you be blessed, and farewell. I will see you in the next chapter, or you will hear me in the next chapter, rather. This was interesting. Okay.